So I just want to make sure I started the recording there. Alrighty. So thanks for joining us tonight. I just started the recording. Again, welcome to Howard's Horse Handicapping. We have a great show tonight for everyone. We're going to be discussing the Gulfstream stake races on Saturday. But before you do that, once again, please make sure you join me on Twitter at @HKravets, KRAVETS, and also subscribe down below on the YouTube channel and comment down below the video player on anything you'd like to see or things that you do not enjoy about the show. I'd love to hear your comments. I've got a great show planned tonight. I'm obviously in a good mood with that Mishriff money. Came through for me at 19-1. Way to go, Mishriff, for me on Saturday. I got a lot of very nice compliments on Twitter and other places. I've got steak dinners. I've got discounts on car rentals. I've got all this stuff going on. So I'm very excited. I can't guarantee 20-1 shots every time we have the show, but I will tell you there's a horse at Gulfstream on Saturday that I think will be about that price that I don't like quite as much as Mishriff, but I'm definitely going to be using underneath the trifectas. We'll get into that horse later on. I see we have a few people joining. So really quick, we'll just do a whip around. If you like, you can turn your mic off. You don't have to come on camera if you don't like. Just state your name and where you're from very quickly, and then we'll go ahead and start the show. So Jim, we'll start off with you, please.
Yeah, I'm Jim from Buffalo, New York. I was happy to be on the Zoom call last week. I certainly took advantage of your 20-1 shot. I was the guy that offered you the steak dinner, and trust me, it's on if you're ever in Western New York.
I already have my plane ticket. We'll talk later. It's all good. Leonard, would you please introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, sir?
Yes, I'm from Toronto, Canada.
Terrific. A big fan of Woodbine, I'm assuming.
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I don't like synthetic racetracks.
I've never been to Woodbine. It's on my bucket list. I'd like
beautiful.
to go. I hear it's beautiful up there.
It's a beautiful racetrack, but I just don't do well on synthetics.
Okay, interesting. Well, I live in the Chicago area, and so I got very used to synthetics with Arlington. Unfortunately, the news this week was made official that Churchill Downs Incorporated is going to be selling Arlington. That is not a surprise to anyone that's been paying attention. It's a whole other story that we're not going to discuss, but most people in the Chicago area are very disappointed about it because Arlington, although the quality of the racing is not nearly as good as it used to be, is one of the most beautiful tracks in the country, especially the turf course. And there have been people going to Arlington, since its open and inception in the early 1900s. So it has a great history, and it's a real shame that it's going to be closing. But Brian, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, sir.
Yep, my name's Brian, and I'm from Lincoln, Rhode Island.
Terrific. Thanks for joining us, Brian. A lot of East Coast people. And Susan, if you can hear me, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, if you'd like to. Susan, are you there? Susan, your mute button is on, just to let you know if you're not sure, if you're aware of that. All right. We'll go ahead and bypass Susan. She might not want to come on. I've got my Gulfstream hat here, everyone, ready to go. Did not do very well at the casino when I was there. I like to play Texas Hold'em, by the way. I also enjoy cards. So, but I'm better at horses than cards. They're both difficult games for sure. So let me share my screen. I'll tell you folks what we have planned for tonight, the show rundown. So let me just minimize this a little bit for us here. So tonight, and I brought this up with everyone last week, excuse me. So again, ground rules for a few new people. Just please be respectful of other people's opinions. No hatred. There's plenty of hate at other places that you can, if you feel the need to vent, this is not the place to do it. So we want to have friendly conversation. Again, if you have a question, depending on how many more people that we will get tonight. Last week we had up to 10 at one point, and I know some people are joining us late. But if you look down below, depending on what device you're using, below next to, if you click on participants, there is a raise hand icon on the right side of the screen. So you click participants, and on the right side of the screen, you should be able to raise your hand if you'd like to do that, just so we're not talking over each other. So please, you can use that button. And if you like a long shot, you must divulge it and give reasons. That is a prerequisite for being on the Howard's Horse Handicapping Show. No hiding long shots, no red boarding. no liking big bombs and telling me after the fact you like the horse and you didn't tell us. So let's share the love on any long shots you might have. We're going to talk about the Gulfstream Late Pick 4 on Saturday, which starts at about 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Then I'm going to show you my Late Pick 4 ABC ticket and Caveman tickets. And it's race 11 through 14. Yes, you heard that correctly. It is a marathon on Saturday. I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe first posted Gulfstream is actually 11:30 Eastern Time on Saturday. And the Fountain of Youth, if I remember off the top of my head, goes off about 6:10 Eastern Time. So you're talking about, 7.5 hours of racing. Approximately, actually, that's 8.5, right? Yeah, it's crazy. 7.5, excuse me, of racing at Gulfstream. We're not going to be obviously talking about 14 races here today. Now, something very strange at Gulfstream. I don't know if this is a typo or what, but I've almost never ever seen Gulfstream not have a late pick 5 with their last 5 races. I've looked a few times, and starting race 10, according to the past performances, I do not see a pick 5, which I find very unusual. I have no idea why. So that's why we're not playing a pick 5 in case they don't have it. But the pick 4 will be certainly suffice. There is an early pick 5 starting in race 1. We're also going to briefly talk about some other grade stake races they have at Gulfstream on Saturday, because I think there are some very interesting races to take a look at. And then at the end, we'll have a little Q&A on any horse racing topics you might have interest in. I was planning on discussing in somewhat detail the Southwest Stakes, the other 3-year-old Derby prep at Oaklawn. However, Keep Me in Mind is not in the race. It's a small field, and it's basically a 2-horse race between Jackie's Warrior and Essential Quality. And I just didn't think it was worth a long discussion over, but it should be a great race. I'd be shocked if one of those two don't win that race. So that's definitely a race that you're going to want to watch at Oaklawn, but we're not really going to be discussing that race. Again, there's my YouTube channel address and also my Twitter account. So let's go ahead, folks. We're going to go ahead and start right away with race 11. Race 11 is the first leg of the pick 4. So we're going to start with the later races, as I said, and then come back to the earlier races. So let's take a look at that race. So here is the 11th race. It's the Grade 3 Honey Fox. It is on turf at 1 mile, and it is for older fillies and mares. You see the field. As of right now, there's a field of 9. Now, I just want to mention also to everyone that I always send out on my Twitter account Saturday morning. I will send out a new possible pick 4 ABC or Caveman ticket after scratches. For example, the Laurel ticket last week, there were some big scratches, especially with some speed came out of some of the races, and I made some adjustments that helped, although I didn't have a 40-to-1 shot. Most people did not have that horse. What are you going to do? But again, I will send out a detailed change to my ticket, because invariably there will be some scratches, I'm sure. The weather, by the way, let me just stop sharing for a minute. The weather, by the way, Saturday is going to be absolutely fantastic, low 80s and sunny. They did get some rain at Gulfstream earlier this week, FYI. The turf course was good earlier in the week. It's definitely going to be firm on Saturday, but I will say it's probably not going to be that rock hard, firm turf course that favors big time speed like you see sometimes this time of year at Gulfstream. But it is starting to get a little bit worn out. It's not as lush as it was earlier in the season, but it's going to be fast and firm. So let's take a look again at that field very quickly. You see it's a 9-horse field, and there's going to be a huge favorite. And having a huge favorite is going to be something that we're going to have to take a real hard look at during this sequence. Because, in my opinion, there are, of the 4 races here in the late pick 4, 3 of the 4 are going to have very heavy favorites. And you're going to have to decide what you want to do with these 3 horses, because the chances of all 3 of them win are probably not very good, just based on basic statistics where favorites win, about 30% of the time. And to have 3 of those win, you're talking about a 9 or 10% chance of those favorites winning. However, all 3 will be pretty heavy favorites. So certainly you're going to have to make some decisions. And for those of you that are right now on our live Zoom chat, as some of you know, I of course will give you a chance to ask some questions and ask for your opinions after I go through each race and as we go through the races. So going through the race, there's gonna be one heavy favorite in this race, and that's gonna be Got Stormy. You see the PPs. Everyone knows Got Stormy. This is a fantastic 6-year-old mare. She's won over $2 million. She sort of struggled a little bit early in last year, and it appeared that she just wasn't the same, and maybe her best days were behind her. But then Mark Cassidy did a great job, sort of a reclamation project, and started sprinting this horse, and she turned into a monster again. Ran some big races, only 2 lengths off of the win position behind Glass Slippers in the Breeders' Cup turf sprint. The question is, what are you going to get from her on Saturday? Now, as you can see down at the bottom of the past performance, she's been working bullets. I watched some of those replays on XBTV. She looks very good. However, and this is a theme that I'm going to mention tonight, the time to beat big favorites is especially when they're coming off of layoffs. And that's what Got Stormy is doing. It's not a big layoff. It's what, December, January, February. You know, it's a legit 3.5 month layoff. Now, if you look at her layoff lines before, when she raced at Tampa, coming from a December and February layoff, an 88 buyer, not great. March to June, 91 buyer. I think it would be fair to say that she is not at her best coming off a layoff. Can she win? Yes, obviously. But I do think there are some other horses that are interesting. Now, you see the early time form 108. She definitely wants the lead. I've been doing my research as I always do this week. Mark Cassidy said a mile is pretty much her top. He does not think that Got Stormy wants any further than a mile, but he thinks that Got Stormy can definitely get the mile at Gulfstream, which has fairly tight turns and a firm turf course. But just keep that in mind that Cassie thinks a mile is this horse's ultimate distance. So is there other speed to challenge Got Stormy? Absolutely. The number 8, Jakarta, who I do not like in this spot, is absolutely going to be on the lead. I'll be shocked if Carmouche, who's a speed jockey anyway, does not take Jakarta to the lead. Jakarta, I don't think can win this race. You look at Jakarta's PPs. She has never gone this distance. There are other races below the PPs you see that I looked at. The furthest she's gone is 7 furlongs, and it was a yielding turf course there on Belmont on June 6th. She was absolutely awful, but that was against newspaper record. It was also very soft, so I don't really take much of that into account. But this is clearly a sprinter. Maker is unbelievable on the turf, as we all know. I just don't think this horse is going to get the distance against this field. However, Jakarta is definitely going to have an effect on Got Stormy, because Got Stormy is going to have to go buy this horse and then hold off closers. So just for the record, and I'm going to show my ticket, I do have Got Stormy as a lone A. And the reason I've got Stormy as a lone A is because I'm not sure the rest of the field. There's no one in the rest of the field that I love, and I'll explain why. So I do have Got Stormy as a lone A, but to be very honest, it's a little bit of a tentative lone A. Let's talk about some other interesting horses. Now, Zelfeld, number 6. Zelfeld is a B, and I want to show you a replay with Zelfeld. Zelfeld, I think, is going to be second choice in this race, and probably a pretty strong second choice. I loved Zelfeld last time, and you can see she got off at a good enough price for me, almost 3-1. But I want to show you this race because Zelfeld got an unbelievable trip. Now, that doesn't mean she can't get a great trip again. She's the 3 horse in this race. I'm going to sort of fast forward. You see her on the inside there in about 5th or 6th. And again, we have a lot of things to cover tonight, so I'm not going to take you through the whole race. But she's sitting a great trip. There's no one around her at all in this race. And they're going decent enough up front, 23, etc. This was also a pretty good field. They went 46 to the half. I'll just let it roll from here. You can see that Jock's got a big hold on this horse, and she gets a great inside-outside trip, comes around, and absolutely explodes in the lane. I'll just let you watch it. This was very impressive, especially off a layoff. No question about it. You see 109 almost at 109 1 3/4. He hasn't even really asked yet. Now he asked the question and pretty much blows by this field. This was a very impressive effort. But he did ask for a lot out of this horse. And you can see she goes by. I really have nothing but positive to say. It was a fantastic race. And again, it was a very impressive effort. So it's hard to knock Zelfeld. But here's my thing. Can she repeat that same effort? I don't know. If she can, she ran a 94. She's going to have to repeat that same effort and hope that Get Stormy regresses, which is very possible. Both those things are possible, but it was such a perfect setup. And that was also her buyer top. So I'm not so sure she can do it again, but she's definitely a player. The horse that I'm sort of interested in trifectas and possibly a win is the 4, Rashetta. Now, Rashetta looks slow on paper. First of all, there's a lot of things I like about Rashetta, despite the fact she looks slow. First of all, Bill Mott, we all know Bill Mott is an unbelievable trainer. This horse won her first 2 races at Newmarket, an extremely good track in Europe, and they sent her right away to a grade 3. But please look at the distance, because I think this is what we need to focus on. She ran her first 2 races at 7 furlongs and a mile on straightaways. And I watched the race, and she definitely looks like she's got a quick burst. Then they sent her to Saratoga against Antoinette, Stunning Sky, some pretty good horses. She was bet. She was less than 4-1 that day. She did not run. I watched the replay twice. I don't have too much to say other than the fact that it was a pretty slow pace. The pace held together. She did not run great. I couldn't find excuses for her. So here's my thought. You can see at the bottom there, Mott's been working this horse very consistently down at a very heavy, demanding pace in park, on turf and dirt. Mott still thinks very highly of this horse. This is a Judd Mott. She's got huge upside to me. And probably the most important thing, like I mentioned before, is Bill Mott was quoted as saying this horse does not want to go a mile and 3/16. This is a perfect distance for her. She's working well. She's got Javier. This, to me, is the fresh-faced horse that I think could surprise on Saturday. And I think you will get that 5-1 because everyone's going to be betting Got Stormy. And I'm assuming that, the 6th, Zelfeld's going to take a lot of money. So I don't know if you're going to get 5-1, but I think you're going to get something close to that. And I think she is very interesting, possibly on the win end, definitely underneath. The other horse I'm going to use as a B is Feel Glorious, the 7. She's coming off a layoff, but Clements and Alvarado are a fantastic combination. All this horse does is run. I mean, look, it's 19 starts. She's been in the money, 12 of those 19. The layoff doesn't bother me. I think there's enough pace. I'm a little concerned. This horse seems like a dead closer, so I don't know if there's enough pace to set it up. And in fact, Zelfeld's probably more tactical. I'm not really sure what Rashetta is going to do. I'm assuming Rashetta is going to be a little far back. So my concern with Rashetta and Feel Glorious, obviously, is from a pace perspective. It might not set up for them, but I'm going to use all 4 of those horses in this race. And I'm going to use Jakarta as a C horse, because if this horse somehow wires the field and I don't have her to start the pick 4, I'm going to go nutso, because I almost always lose pick 4s and pick 5s with turf horses on the lead. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. It happened to me earlier this week on a horse that didn't look like could win and somehow wired the field. So if Got Stormy stumbles or just doesn't get out of the gate and somehow Jakarta just runs a race she's never run, I'm going to use Jakarta as a C. So I'm going to bring everyone back. That's my opinion of our first leg. I'm going to bring everyone back here into the picture. I'm going to stop sharing. Trish Smith. Trish, thanks for joining us tonight. I appreciate you coming here. And also I appreciate, Trish, the comments on Twitter about Mishra. Thank you very much. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good. And thank you once again. I decided at first I was going to go, and then I decided to throw together a ticket that you did, and I'm very glad that I did. So,
well, congratulations.
Very
I'm happy for you. Happy for everyone that, as I told people before you came on, Trish, no 21 guarantees every time you come out of the show, but I'll do my best. Does anyone have any comments, opinions? Now, my assumption, these PPs did not come out until yesterday. So I don't know how much handicapping you folks have done already, but the reason why I want to do a Zoom chat is to open up the floor. So if anyone has any comments about what I said or this race in general, feel free to, you can either use the raise hand button, or I see Leonard and Jim, you're actually on camera. You can just go ahead and raise your hand. Would anyone like to comment on my opinions or your own opinion on the Honey Fox? Yes, Leonard, go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I haven't prepared for this and I haven't handicapped the card, but excuse me, based on what you said so far, Zelfeld looks like the most attractive selection to me. I like that move she made in the middle of the race.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she ran great.
Yeah.
If she wins again and I have her as a B, that could absolutely be a mistake. And again, I might change my ticket depending on scratches and whatnot. There's something about it, Leonard, that I just have a hard time believing she's going to run that big a race again. And not only that, the trip was so absolutely perfect, as you can see, which is why I love replays. I mean, she saved all the ground, then she tipped out. I mean, she could get that same trip again. It's unlikely. Does she need that same trip again? Maybe not. The only other reason also, Leonard, is I think she's clearly going to be the second choice. And I think, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't put a win bet on her at, let's just say, you know, 5-2. But she can absolutely win. Your point is well taken. She ran great last time. No question about it. Any other thoughts or comments from anyone about this race? All right. So we'll go ahead and move on. You have to make a decision what you want to do with Get Stormy. I mean, that's really what you're going to have to decide on what you want to do with her and how strong you want to use her. Let's go ahead to the next race. The next race, which is race 12, is the Devona Dale. The Devona Dale is a big field. These are restricted 3-year-old fillies. So this is a prep for the Florida Oaks, which is a prep for the Kentucky Oaks. So there are points on the line here. So it's a very important race from that standpoint. With points on the line, you see a very big field of 12. They're going, excuse me for the ads there, they're going a mile, and I'm assuming most of you know that Gulfstream is just a one-turn 1 mile. So this is going to be one turn out of the chute going a mile. And I've always believed at this 1 mile chute that the very inside posts are really not ideal. I don't have specific post position stats in front of me at Gulfstream going a mile, but really middle of the outer posts usually do better because if you don't break on the inside, you can take a lot of dirt and you could potentially have some issues. So that's something that you might want to consider as we go through the race. So let me jump to the grade 2 Devona Dale. To me, this is a 2-horse race, ladies and gentlemen. And I feel pretty strong in saying that. The 2 horses that I like very much, one of them is another big favorite. Again, V-Quest is 7-5 morning line. I'm guessing, by the way, I'm going to say Got Stormy is going to be, it'll be interesting to see the odds on Got Stormy. I'm going to say Got Stormy is going to be even money in the first leg. And I think V-Quest could be even money also, although it's a bigger field. So maybe 6-5. Maybe that's 7-5 morning line. But again, this is another horse coming off a layoff. You have to make a decision. V-Quest was awesome last year. You might remember her. She came up the rail at 6-1. And won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies with a great ride by Rosario, getting a 93 buyer against a field that most people thought was pretty talented. The 2-year-old fillies were a good group last year. Now, Robert Reed, the trainer, has said, and again, take this for what it's worth, that this horse is not fully cranked, and this is just a means to an end. All that to me makes perfect sense. This horse has one goal in mind, and that's the Kentucky Oaks in a little over 2 months from now. So it would be hard for anyone to believe that V-Quest, no matter what the trainer says, is cranked up and ready. This is not her main goal. That being said, she can obviously win this race. She's tactical, IRAD's on her. She's been working well. She obviously can win. She is one of my 2 A's. I have her as an A, but I do have someone else that is an A in this race. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing just for a second. I think workout reports are very important. I don't always buy workout reports. The workout report for Saturday is not available yet. I'll be getting it. I'm going to carefully look at some of these layoff horses, their workout reports, and other horses as well, because that might tell you something about their readiness, certainly on Saturday. So if you want to buy workout reports, that might be worth it. The other horse that I'm going to be using is the 5, and it's pronounced Mealfoy. Mealfoy. Want to pronounce that correctly. Full disclosure, I bet this horse pretty hard at 3-1 in a big contest that I was in New York, and she absolutely broke my heart in the damsel and in the Damosel, the grade 2 at Aqueduct. And you might look at that and say, wow, she had a 3-length lead in the stretch and she couldn't hold on. Well, I'm going to show you the replay, and she ran very well in this race. I'm not going to show you the whole I'm not going to show you the entire replay, but let me just go ahead and jump ahead. She's got tactical speed. She is the 3 in this race in the Juddmonte Silks. And what you're going to notice here is she's getting a very good trip, but this is pretty fast fractions. This is 23. Again, this is Slop in her 2-year-old year at Aqueduct, going 1.1 miles. So I think she had a right to get a little bit tired in this race. You see they went, she's following a bond here. The winner, by the way, is the 1, who is a very nice filly also. But you can see right here, she makes a bit of an early move. This is 48 2.5. These are legit fractions. 48 2.5 for a 2-year-old filly going 1.1 miles. I'm not sure why the jock moved this early. Maybe she just had that much horse and he figured that she was good. But she does get run down. She's still very much comfortable in hand. I'll go ahead and take you to the stretch run. You can see she's got a pretty good lead. I thought I was home, and her ears are still pricked, and now you can see she's starting to get tired. So I don't know if it was the track. I don't know. I think she just moved a little too early, and she gets run down by a very nice shadow horse here at the wire. So can she get that distance? I'm sure she can get the distance. That's really not the concern for me. However, I will say, hold on one second. Sorry about that. Okay. So certainly she can get the distance. That's really not the concern. I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. So certainly she can get the distance. I think she moved too soon. I think it's that simple. She's been working well. You can see it pacing. She can absolutely take a step forward. And if she doesn't want the distance, I mean, she's out of curling. You'd think the distance would not be a problem. But she has a nice, comfortable post. I don't think you're going to get 5-1. We'll see. If this horse is 5-1, I'm definitely putting win bet on this horse without a question. I think she can absolutely win. She's my other A. The only 2 horses I would even consider as Bs, or excuse me, as I have no Bs, by the way. Curlin's Catch, the 4 horse, would be a C for me. She got a very good trip in the Suncoast at Tampa. I'm not going to show you the replay, but she's an up-and-comer for Mark Casse. She is a Ontario bred, so there you go. There's the angle. So we have an Ontario bred here on the show, so Leonard might be betting Curlin's Catch very hard on Saturday. She can win, but she's a little bit slow right now. She got her buyer top at 79, and I'm also not sure about the turnaround. This is a 3-week turnaround. That's pretty quick for a 3-year-old filly with a top. These 3-year-old fillies I find to be very fickle. They're basically, teenagers, and I see 3-year-old fillies definitely bounce up and down, maybe more than any other age class that you're going to see. So the fact that she's coming back quickly and that she just ran her biggest buyer top, those are strikes against, but I'm using her as a C in case she continues to progress. And the other horse I'm a little bit interested in is the 6, Crazy Beautiful. I will admit that I bet her on Breeders' Cup Day because I knew I was getting a price. She was 16-1 in that Breeders' Cup juvenile filly race that Vequist won. The pace pretty much held together, and frankly, she was disappointing. She really didn't make much of a run. But I think she is the big closer you want in this race. And if she's improved for Kenneth McPeak, and if the pace gets hot, I think Crazy Beautiful is a bit interesting. And I might even move her up to a B horse, depending on my ticket. I like Crazy Beautiful more than Curlin's Catch because I think the upside First time off the layoff is going to be better for Crazy Beautiful. And I like Ken McPeak quite a bit. Plus, she's been working very well, and she's faced some very classy horses. So I'm using Crazy Beautiful as my C horse, also maybe a B. I'll just quickly run down. There is some speed in this race. You see Hull Bodemeister, the 1, should show speed from the rail, especially because she has the rail. Lady Traveler is more of a mid-pack type. V-Quest, you'd have to assume can be up close. Competitive Speed's also a closer, but I think she's too slow and not classy enough. Adios Trippy, the 8, is definitely going. It sure looks like on paper. Hindsight, I looked at a little bit because she is an expensive, nicely bred horse out of Pioneer of the Nile. She's a little bit interesting as a bomb, but I think this might be a little bit too much too soon. And then Happy Constitution also should show some speed. And you got Penn Street. These horses on the outside, I don't think have much of a chance. So again, the horse I'm most interested is the 5 Mealfoy. I'm hoping to get that price. I'll be putting a win bet on her. I think she has a chance to upset V-Quist. But really, if V-Quist is ready, and the trainer said she's ready but not cranked, again, take that for whatever you want. I'm hoping V-Quist, frankly, doesn't win. But she's obviously the horse to beat in this race. So again, I'll open up to the floor. Thoughts on the Devona Dale from what I've talked about? Anyone have any comments, opinions? How do you feel about layoff horses in general? Do you believe what the trainer says to be true, or is he or she just playing possum? Do you think V-Quest possibly could just run off the screen and run huge? What's the lowest price you'd be willing to take on V-Quest? There's a lot of things that we can talk about in this race. Any opinions, comments on the Devona Dale from you folks out there? Leonard, go ahead, sir.
So I didn't notice this. What are the trainer's statistics off the layoff for V-Quest?
Great question. Let's take a look at it because we can look at that information. So that's an excellent question. I will look it up for you right now. I did not look it up before we came on here. So let's take a look at Robert. Now this is about a 3-month layoff. So we'll take a look at, we'll look in the last 5 years. If you've never seen this, this is fantastic. And Trish, I see your hand is raised. Thank you. We'll be coming back to you in a minute. Last 5 years, actually that's the time frame, excuse me. We want, days between starts, excuse me. So let's go, what do you want to go, 2 to 6 months? How does that sound, Leonard? 2 to 6 month layoff? 2 to 6 month layoff, last 5 years. Robert Reed is 12%. You see it at the top there. He's got 11 wins out of 94 starts. He's got a negative ROI, 134. So 12%, not great. I would characterize that as below average. I wouldn't say it's horrible, but I certainly wouldn't say it's anything special.
It's not out of line with his overall statistics, though, is it?
I'm sorry?
It's not out of line with his overall statistics.
No, it's not. You know what? I take trainers at their word for the most part. I mean, usually you hear trainers say, I love the horse, right? I mean, you're never going to hear a trainer say, I don't like my horse at all. This horse is not ready. Don't use. I mean, you never hear that. So when a trainer says they're not cranked, I usually take that even more the other way. That means that she's definitely not cranked, in my opinion. He knows, and the connections, the owners know, this horse is going to be bet a lot. So I don't think they're going to try to, this is not a situation they're trying to get a bigger price from the public, in my opinion. So I don't think V-Quist is fully cranked, but she's definitely the class of the race, and she's run the best figs. Trish, thanks for your patience. What would you like to add to the conversation?
I was wondering, I definitely wanted to use Crazy Beautiful in my ticket, but I was wondering what price do you think that she's probably going to go off at, and what's the shortest you'd be willing to take?
That's a great question. I know that a lot of us are fans of the Matt Bernier show, and Matt often talks about, your value line. What would your odds be on this horse? So Crazy Beautiful is 6-1 morning line. I mean, if you look through the race, again, I think V-Quist is going to be close to that morning line, right? And I think the odds on Mealfoy are going to be lower. I think Mealfoy is going to be, I'm just going to throw 7-2. After that, I mean, who is going to take money in this race? I mean, Curlin's Ketchel takes the money, obviously Crazy Beautiful, but there really aren't a lot of options. So if you're talking about on the win end, Trish, I probably wouldn't take anything less than 8-1 on Crazy Beautiful. I just think there's other horses that are more talented and more proven. And anything to me less than 8-1 on a win bet on the win end doesn't seem real plausible. I think you might get 8-1 because it's a big field, and I think obviously a ton of money is going to come in on VQuest, and a lot of people like Jose Ortiz also compared to Ken McPeek and Alvarado, which are really Kentucky connections. So based off of that, you know, the Ortiz brothers are always bet quite a bit. So, oh, are you there, Trish? Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
was I sharing? I don't think I was sharing that, was I? Was
I
I
don't
sharing PPs? Did you guys see? No, I wasn't. I apologize. I thought I was sharing the PPs. Anyway, so I would say 8-1 is the lowest I would take, and I think you might get that.
Okay.
Yes, Leonard.
So would you be at all concerned about the fact that McPeak is only 2 for 39 at this meeting?
I'm sorry. Who's 2 for 39?
The trainer,
Yes, absolutely. I don't think, you know, I apologize that I didn't share my screen. I meant to do that. I don't want this. Let me go back. You guys see the PPs, correct? Okay. So yeah, McPeak is 2 for 39. And by the way, Alvarado's 0 for 35, Trish. So you're talking about a trainer, Trish and Leonard and everyone else watching. McPeak is 2 for 39 at this meet, and Alvarado hasn't won yet. He's 0 for 35. But, you know, Robbie Alvarado, listen, he's not getting the best mounts there. He's obviously a veteran guy. He's been around a long time. It's a big stake race. I don't think it's as much of a negative as people might think. But Leonard, your point's very well taken. McPeak's a very patient guy. And the other thing about McPeak, Leonard, that I think most people know is he usually trains closers. And the bottom line is, you know, he's got a lot of long-winded horses. Gulfstream's just not that kind of track. It's very speed favoring. So, you know, he's a very long-term. He doesn't have a lot of precocious types. He's never going to have a good training record at Gulfstream. Robbie Alvarado's never going to have a good jockey record at Gulfstream during the championship meet. So those are negatives, but again, I'm not surprised by those stats. And it's not like they've got some jockey that, you know, is unproven or young or can't win, or a trainer that hasn't won before. So I wouldn't take that as much into account as some people might think. Any other thoughts? Brian, do you have any thoughts, comments, anything you'd like to chime in on? We haven't quite heard from you yet.
No, I'm just kind of following along. Thanks.
Terrific. No problem. No pressure to make any comments at all. So we're going to move on. Jim, anything you'd like to add to this race? You're muted again, Jim. I know it's. I'll tell you when COVID's over, we'll do some of that mute button. We'll throw it in the ocean.
It sounds good. Yeah, I just don't want to catch some of the background of my house. First two races I handicapped very similar to what you have, similar A's and B's. So I really don't have a lot to add to what I don't really want to repeat what you already went over. I'm maybe a little more interested in Curlin, watching her a little bit in Canada, and I think really found it herself and like the progressing buyers. So I might upgrade her a bit more than you have.
Sure. I will say again, we don't want to take time to show. I mean,
right.
She did get a very good trip.
Yes.
And again, I know you've heard me say that before, but it does matter because, you know, this is a 12-horse field. Is she going to get a great trip again? I mean, it's hard to get a good trip in a 12-horse field, but she's definitely interesting, no question about it.
Yeah, I have a nice, interesting long shot in the next race. I want to see if you mentioned the horse or not. So I'll maybe have something to say after the 13th.
All right, so let's go to let's go ahead. Let's go ahead to that 13th race. So race 13, another grade stakes. Now, to me, this is the most wide open race by far of the late pick four. This to me is absolutely a spread race. So this is where I think you can make some money and get paid. Okay. This is the grade 3 Very One. They're going a mile and 3/16 on the turf. This is for older filly and mares. You see it's a field of 11 with an also eligible that I'm sure won't be running because the turf is going to be just fine. So this is where I think you need to find your prices. And I'm curious to see what Jim and everyone else might have to say. Let's take a look at the past performances for the Very One. So the first thing that I want everyone to notice is the start. So they're starting basically at the top of the stretch. I believe this is the same distance as that $1 million Pegasus Turf Cup race. So posts really aren't that big a deal. They have a very long run into the first turn. So if you're on the outside, you do have a chance to cross over. So it's a very long 2-turn race. You got, I'm just going to roll through very quickly. Lovely there on the inside for Staffy Joseph and Paco Lopez. Bella Laura for Juan Avila and Zayas. Antoinette, 9-2. Tuned. Now, Tuned, if you've been following my show, Tuned was scheduled to run 2 weeks ago at the fairgrounds, but Motion decided to scratch this horse because he believes this horse wants firm turf. So she scratched out of the race at fairgrounds 2 weeks ago for this spot, just to give you some information. Heavenly Curlin, who I'm going to talk about. I bet this horse last time. She was not good, but I was very interested in her. Another Mark Cassie horse coming from Woodbine. And then Chad Brown's got 2 in this race. He's got the 6, creatively spelled California Queen, who is a German bred. So very interesting horse, making her first start in the U.S. And then he's also got the 7, Bacchanalia for Irad Ortiz. There's the 8 who's going to be scratching out. Warlike Goddess for another horse for Mott. Sister Hannah and Dominga, who's coming off a long layoff for Brad Cox. So as some of you may know, if you've been following our handicapping, I try to look at race flow right away. And what I've noticed is there is not a lot of speed in this race. How do I know? I didn't get the Timeform US chart that shows you the prediction, but if you look at the early pace figures, you got Bella Laura with a 96, you have Antoinette with an 89, and then everyone else, you see they're all pretty low. Again, if you just look at if you look at the early Timeform US, there's a lot of closers in this race and not a lot of speed. So folks, you know exactly what that means. My top choice in this race, I have 4 A's. I'm using 4 A's in this race. And my top choice is the 2, Bella Laura, who on paper is the speed of the speed. And there's not a lot of speed in this race. I looked very carefully at this horse. And at first, I was a little bit against, because if you look at Bella Laura early in her career, she really was nothing special. She was going these distances. You see a 1 1/8, 1 5/16 at Kentucky Downs, which was a complete disaster. And at first look, it would seem that this horse doesn't want to go long. And I totally understand that. And maybe she doesn't want to go this far. But after Juan Avila took over the training of Bella Laura last year, her buyers improved dramatically. She's running competitive figs just as good as anyone in this race, high 80s. Now, I understand that it's a 1 16th at a mile, but, and this is a big but, she figures to be right on the lead, if not just off the lead, in a very slow pace. To me, that means you need to upgrade this horse. She's bred out of Mucho Macho Man, out of a Giants Causeway mare, based on breeding. She should be able to get the distance. Now, I want to show a replay because I think it's very important here. Bella Laura and Tuned, the 4 horse, were in the same race. And guess what race they're coming out of? They're coming out of the Zelfeld race that we watched earlier. But I purposely didn't want to mention these 2, so we can watch it again. So Bella Laura is the 1 in this race we're going to watch, and Tuned is the 8. And the reason why I want to show the replay here is because I wanted to see if Bella Laura galloped out and what kind of distance she might get. Again, you're looking for the 1 and the 8 in this race. So Bella Laura on the inside was up close. And remember, it was a pretty fast pace because, and by the way, Tuned is in the back here in between horses. This is not a very comfortable spot for sure. Bella Laura definitely gained a good trip on the inside. But remember now, Zelfeld came from behind and blew the field away. I'm not going to say the pace fell apart, but certainly the winner came from behind. Bella Laura got a good trip. There's no question about it. You see Tuned is in a very uncomfortable spot, and now you don't even see her on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward here. So again, sorry, let me go back a little bit. So here's Bella Laura, the 1. Here's Tuned, now moving up. And as I'm watching this race, after the replay, I'm like, wow, maybe I should like Tuned. But I'm just going to let you watch. Bella Laura has to angle out. And if she doesn't want the distance, to me, she'd be quitting right now. They went very fast. You see she's got a very long stride. This is a very long stride to me. You see Tune is coming on, but here's what I really like. Watch the gallop out. And again, some people, I'm going to freeze it right here. Some people don't believe in gallop outs. Some people at home might be laughing, saying, why are you so interested in gallop outs? Some gallop outs matter to me. Some don't. It's situational. But I want you to watch the gallop out here because Bella Laura, the 1, and it'll come up here in a second. You see there she is. Right now, she's right up to Zelfeld. And it's not as if Zelfeld is not, they're not pulling up Zelfeld here. So Bella Laura, you can see, still wants to run to me. She's galloping out, and there's Tune right there also. So again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but you can see Zelfeld is still galloping out, and Bella Laura was galloping out right with her. So I'm going to speculate, and again, it's an educated guess here, that the distance is not going to be the problem for Bella Laura. If she gets beat, maybe it's the talent. But I think Bella Laura is very interesting. I think you're going to get that price. She's an A. Antoinette is also an A. She ran big races last year. She also figures to be up close. This is another layoff horse for Mott. She's probably the classiest of the field, been involved in grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3s. I see no reason why she can't win as well, although she's coming off a pretty sizable layoff. I'm also going to use Tuned as an A. That was the 8 horse that you saw that I thought had an uncomfortable trip in between horses, still came on well. There is no Zelfeld in this race. She's not going to have to worry about that horse. I like the fact that Motion actually waited for Fern Turf. And you see carefully, there is a trainer, there is a break in the training here in the works. You see, she does not have a published work from January 17th to February 14th. That is a bit of a concern for me. However, keep in mind that she was supposed to run and then they scratched her out of the race. But since that scratch, she has 2 very good works. So I'm assuming Graham Motion has this horse ready. I'm not concerned about readiness. The other horse that I'm using as an A, I'm not giving up on this horse, is Heavenly Curlin. I liked Heavenly Curlin a lot last time. I made a pretty sizable win bet on her at 6.5 to 1. It didn't work out. She didn't get a great trip, but the pace sort of held together, and Always Shopping won. Now, I want to say 2 things about Heavenly Curlin. First of all, I think you're going to get that price, number 1. Number 2, Mark Casse is quoted as saying, I want to give this horse one more time on turf. I think she can run on turf, and she's training better than she trained in the last race, which I think you can see there. She's got a 59-2 breezing. My main issue with Heavenly Curlin is I don't think this sets up for a closer, which is another reason why I'm a little bit concerned about Tuned as well. And that's mainly why I like Bella Laura a lot. So I'm a little concerned about the pace situation, but I think Heavenly Curlin is talented. I'm still going to use her anyway as an A. Now, the 2 Chad Browns. First of all, Chad Brown's going to be bet. These 2 horses have been working with each other at Palm Meadows. I watched the workouts because you can find them at XBTV. Feel free to do so. It's free. Again, that's XBTV. I do not work for them. Anything I suggest on this show, I'm not getting paid for. These are my tools that I use. California Queen, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. California Queen is about this big. I'm telling you, she is a really, and the other Chad Brown is like, if you watch, I had to laugh because the horse sizes are literally that much of a difference. That 7 is a pretty decent size mare, and this California Queen is this little itty bitty filly. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that doesn't mean she can't win. I just think it's funny to point out the sizes. Interestingly enough, California Queen, to me, was outworking the 7, Bacchanilla. Now, when you look at the workouts, if you look carefully, February 5th, same time. February 21st, same time. February 19th. So they've been working with each other. You'd have to look at the workouts to tell, It is subtle, but on the gallop outs and etc., it looks like California Queen is moving better than Bacchanilya. I'm using the 7 as a C. I really don't like the 7 at all. I'm only using the 7 out of respect to Irad and Klarovich and Chad Brown. I think the 6 is going to get overbet, and I'm only using her as a B. This is not one of my top choices for several reasons. I'll be brief. First of all, horses that come from Germany, these are not the top Euros. The top Euros come from England, France, even Ireland, mainly England and France. The top horses do not come from Germany, number one. Number two, she has not raced since Longchamp in a grade 1 there in early October. This is a very long layoff. Number three, you see this horse looks to me more like a stayer. She's been going 1.25 miles, 1 3/8, 1 7/8. So, and mainly from the back. This horse is probably coming from the clouds, frankly, in a race that doesn't set up for a closer. So number one, I think she wants to go longer. Number two, she's off a long layoff, although Chad Brown obviously can get a horse ready. Number three, not every Euro is the same. I'm not sure if she's as top quality Euro as some other ones that Chad Brown has come over. And number four, and most importantly, you know she's going to be bet. She's 4-1 morning line. Now, if she's 2-1, then I might be nervous, and I don't have her into the pick 4. I might be more nervous because that means she might be more live than I think. But you know this horse is going to take a lot of money based on connections, and I'm negative to this horse for a bunch of reasons, the price being the main one. I'm using the 7 as the C, and I'm going to use Dominga, the 11, for Brad Cox, also as a C. Maybe she's going to improve off the long layoff. Brad Cox is excellent off layoffs. He's got Castellano on her. She's run some big races, but again, she's a closer, guys and ladies, and I don't think this race sets up for a closer. That's why, again, Sister Hannah's got decent buyers, and she obviously is a nice horse. She's 6-1. I don't have her at all. That could be a big mistake. I might throw Sister Hannah. In fact, I think I will throw Hanan in as a C. But again, this just doesn't look like it sets up for a closer to me. So just to recap, my A's in this race, and again, I'll show you my ticket, are 2, 3, 4, 5. My B is the Chad Brown 6, and my C's are 7, 11, and I'll throw the 10 in there also as a C. This is absolutely a spread race. Opinions, folks, on anything I said, questions for me on this race, or any comments? Yes, Trish, go ahead.
I was wondering, I know that you talked about the gallop out, and I noticed that I pay way more attention to it in turf racing than dirt racing. Do you think that that's a good thing, or am I a little bit off base on...
You know, that's very interesting. I really haven't given that much thought. Now, in turf racing, they, you know, in theory, because turf racing is all about running in spots, right? They go a little bit, usually, they go a little bit slower earlier. The turf horses have really quick acceleration. So I think it'd be fair to say that in general, turf horses are finishing faster than dirt horses, right? I think that's pretty fair. I think that's a pretty fair comment to say. So, I don't really differentiate between gallop outs on turf and dirt. On dirt races, I like to look at gallop outs for younger horses that are bred to go long or that run short. So in other words, I like to look at gallop outs in dirt sprints a lot with younger maiden horses, because if you see a horse close like a train for 3rd or 4th with a troubled trip, and then you watch the gallop out, I'm talking about dirt now, and then you see them, you know, go from 6 furlongs to a mile, Trish, in their next race, that's a big green flag for me. That's like, this is a must use. So I guess to me, it probably matters a little bit more in dirt racing for me, because in turf racing, usually they all, you know, they're closing faster. But the reason I showed that replay is because Bella Laura, to me, I'm not sure about the distance. So I wanted to see her stride. And I wanted to see if she's willing to go further. And it looked like to me, she's a big horse with a big stride. That's a little more, I won't say one-paced, but I don't see that like quick burst. And usually the longer the distance, the more you want those like bigger galloping types. So that's why I wanted to look at the gallop out on the turf race. But to answer your question, I would say in general, to me, it matters a little bit more in dirt racing, because turf racing, they're all closing fast if they're closing in general. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Okay, yeah, no, that does.
But this situation, I think, is a little bit different because Bella Laura has not proven that she can go this far effectively. And so I wanted to see what she looked like on the gallop out. Now, listen, she might run 6th or 7th on Saturday. But I think the big factor with Bella Laura is there's not a lot of speed in this race. I mean, who's going to go? I showed you the PPs. Antoinette, maybe she'll go to the lead, but she's coming off a long layoff. I would be very surprised if Bella Laura is not on the lead and on the lead for a very long time. Hopefully, if she's 5-1 plus, long enough to just wire the field. That's what I'm hoping for. Any other opinions, comments before we get to the Fountain of Youth? Yes, Jen.
Well, Howard, I really agree with you on Bella Laura. I think Zayas is probably the master of being on the front on turf racing at Gulfstream. I watch probably too much Gulfstream racing, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been beaten by Zayas. Perfect ride on the front in turf races, especially when he's a little bit of a price. So that was really my A horse. The horse I like at a little bit of a price, I think going to be a big price, is the 9 horse, Warlike Goddess. I know that the pace probably doesn't set up for Warlike Goddess, but there's a couple of things I really like about the horse. The horse has won twice, both at Churchill Downs, which I think is probably one of the toughest circuits for a horse to start at. The horse started long both times and won on turf long both times, the nice 10-point Beyer improvement. It's a newly turned 4-year-old that's just coming back. Mott, I think, is a master of these type of layoffs and with deep closers. If for any reason there's any pace up front, I'm not really a big Lepereau fan, but I did see the replay of the September 26th race, and the horse is wide throughout the race, 4-5 wide, looked very professional. I think of the closers, I've got some questions with some of the other ones, but for a horse with potential, that if there's any type of speed up front, if you're looking for maybe a horse, if they got 10-1 morning line, I think it'll probably be more 15 to 20-1. I think this horse has real potential. Wasn't really well bet in his first 2 starts. And Calumet Farms, it's English Channel. I get so much that I like about the horse. Maybe too much too soon, but for a price, for 15 to 20-1 horse, if for any reason a horse decides to go out with Bella Laura, if there's any type of speed, of the deep closers, I think Warlike Goddess is very, very interesting, even maybe to put 2nd or 3rd on your ticket. I'm running.
Well, I think you make, I might be over, like I said, this is a very wide open race. Let me just tell you a few bits of information that you may or may not know. First of all, when a Bill Mott horse is bet first time out, that's a good sign. She was only 9-2 in that first race at Churchill.
Out of a 9-hole, but look at both tough posts at Churchill too.
It was a 9-horse field, and they actually went pretty slow, and she closed into it. So I don't want to take the time to look at the internal splits, but that was probably a very impressive effort. I will give you that. And then she came back and won again. Bill Mott's got 2 in this race, I believe, correct?
Yes, he does.
Who's the other one? Okay, so Antoinette. So I don't know what you make of that. He's putting, I guess, what you consider the better jockey, Jose Ortiz, on the 3. But something that is worth mentioning, Lepereau was on this horse in her debut. So she, he knows this horse. Here's something I will mention to you, and if I'm 99% positive about this, you'd have to, because I was reading some articles. If you go on to DRF, I believe Mott was quoted saying this horse prefers softer ground. Now, I'm not saying she can't win on firm ground. You'd have to, again, look up the articles in DRF for this race. I'm 99% positive, I read that earlier tonight, that Mott thinks this horse is better on softer ground. Okay. It doesn't mean that this horse can't win. I'm just giving you information. Listen, she's very interesting. But again, all these closers, I think they're up against it. I
agree.
It sure doesn't look like on paper that it's going to favor a closer. However, she's gotten the distance already. So distance seems to be in her favor. Warlike Goddess, very interesting. I might add her. Jim, those are all points very well made.
The other interesting thing is Mott has Antoinette, which does have a little front speed. So if Antoinette hooks up with Bella Laura, and they
absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, so Mott's got a closer and a front runner, but I don't. Antoinette's like not a runoff type. I saw her run a lot last year. Plus, she's
Stalker.
coming off the layoff. It's hard for me to believe that they're just going to gun her to the lead. My vision of this race, which I don't know, it worked well for me last Saturday. My vision here is Bella Laura's going to go to the lead. Antoinette's going to sit right off, and you're going to see fractions of like, 24-4, 49-3. I mean, I just, that's what I envision. But everything you said are excellent points, and I wouldn't be shocked with the 9-1 at all. Not at all. Any other thoughts, comments? All right, so let's talk about the big one, guys. And this, by the way, ding, 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 maybe. This is where my price possibly comes in. I see Richard has joined us. Richard, thanks for joining us tonight. Richard, can you hear us? Richard, would you like to say anything? Introduce yourself and where you're from. He's trying to connect his audio. Okay, so maybe Richard, thanks for joining us. I'm sure you'll, Richard, can you hear us now? Your mute button's on, by the way. If you want to turn your mute button off and say hello and where you're from. Okay, we'll let Richard get situated here. Richard, I see that you're on. Thanks for joining us tonight. Now, before I show you the Fountain of Youth, this, of course, is the last leg of the sequence. I have a horse in this race that I do not feel as good as I felt about Mishriff. So let me just get that wide open, full disclosure. I do not like the horse as much as Mishriff, but I think underneath this horse is very, very interesting, and you're going to get at least double digits. In fact, I saw 20-1 on one morning line, although I don't think he's 20-1 on the Gulfstream morning line, but I saw someone else at a morning line at big odds. So the Fountain of Youth, there's a lot of points on the line. This is a big prep for the Kentucky Derby, of course. Horses need to gain points to get up that leaderboard. There's a lot of horses coming out of the Holy Bull last month. So we're going to be watching a replay. There are not a lot of fresh faces in this race. So what you have to do is make some decisions on the horses coming out of the Holy Bull and then a few others that are in this race. My general thought, I have not been blown away by the Gulfstream 3-year-olds so far. Marcus Hirsch on DRF tweeted out something very interesting today. He covers the fairgrounds. He thinks, and I think some other people think also, that the fairgrounds 3-year-olds are actually stronger than the Florida 3-year-olds right now. And with Mandaloon and some other horses, Proxy, I think it's a fair statement to make. Greatest Honor is obviously going to be a big favorite on Saturday. Yep, this is the third of the big favorites, right? We talked about Get Stormy. We talked about Vequist, and now Greatest Honor, who's also going to be around that 6-5 range. So again, you have a decision to make. What do you want to do with these big favorites? So let's go ahead and look at the field for the Fountain of Youth. So give me a second here. And it's race 14. Yes, goes off at 6:10. It's a field of 10, and you're going to see a bunch of horses are coming out of the same race. And you can see the big favorite at a 9-5 morning line. You're not going to get 9-5. I'd be shocked if this horse is 9-5. For Jose Ortiz, Greatest Honor is the favorite. Let's take a look at the PPs for the Fountain of Youth. Now, a few things to keep in mind, and let's start right off the top. This is a 2-turn mile and 16th. Ladies and gentlemen, as I think a lot of you know, this is a short run, that first turn. You do not want to be outside here. Outside, no good. Any outside horses have to either take back or send hard. The stats on horses outside the 9-hole are not very good at all. It's only a 10-horse field, though, so no one is going to be that wide. But again, you do not want wide posts in general. Let's just go in post position order quickly, and then I'll get without my picks. You've got Drain the Clock, who's run 2 monster races in sprint races for Safi Joseph, and there's your man Zayas, Jim. He's stretching out to go 1 mile and 16th. He's run 2 big races in sprints, pretty much on the lead. Prime Factor, who ran a huge race first off for Pletcher, and then came out as the favorite 6-5 in the Holy Bull, and frankly did not run real well. We're going to show that replay. However, Pletcher decides to continue to run him long in a stake race. So Subtle is going to be a big price for Armando de la Cerda, who won nicely, but that was against State Breds. Fire at Will, a very interesting horse who won, if you recall, at a price last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf race. This horse has been on turf 3 of 4 times, only has 1 race on dirt, and it was in the slop. However, he did win. The Kitten's Joy Mare and Declaration of War and Warfront on the top. Giraffles, who ran poorly in the Holy Bull. King's Ovation, who finished second to Drain the Clock in the Swale, second time out off the layoff for Dale Romans. You got Tarantino for you movie fans, who ran second to Greatest Honor. Then, of course, you have Greatest Honor, who won very impressively. I actually put a win bet on that day. I could not believe the price I was getting because he had a ton of 2-turn experience, and he went off almost a 3-1, and I was able to cash a ticket there. And then you have 2 big prices on the outside, Tiz Tac-Toe for Hess, and then Papatu, who actually ran in the Holy Bull. So I think the first thing we should do, guys, is take a look, and ladies, is take a look at the Holy Bull. There are a lot of horses coming out of the Holy Bull, and you've got the top 5 finishers: Greatest Honor, Tarantino, Prime Factor, Papatu, and Giraffles. And before I run it, I'll give you a chance to see the numbers there. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. Greatest Honor was the 7 that won the race. The favorite was Prime Factor, the 6. So you probably want to pay most attention to the 6 and 7. Again, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. Now, this was Prime Factor's first race around 2 turns. So, again, Prime Factor is the 6, Greatest Honor is the 7, Tarantino is the 5. There's really nothing at the break. You see, they asked Tarantino pretty hard to come out of there. And Prime Factor, although he's about 3 wide, he's actually about 4 wide, becomes 3 wide. He's getting certainly a comfortable spot. And Tarantino is also getting a great trip there, the 5 horse. Here's Prime Factor, the 6. Greatest Honor, by the way, is back here in the 7. And then you have the 1 and the 3 also getting good trips. The pace, 23-1. Not blazing, but certainly honest, I would say for sure. And if you liked Prime Factor in this race, you got to feel pretty comfortable. I mean, he's sitting comfortably. I see no excuses for this horse right now. You start seeing Greatest Honor in the 7 there, moving up in between horses. And I don't know if you noticed, but the jock on Prime Factor looked back to see where Greatest Honor was. You're going to see Tarantino go past the leader, and they're all going to make this move on the turn. I'll just let you go ahead and watch. I'll turn this down a little bit too for us. Actually, you won't hear the sound, sorry, because I've got my microphone in. But you can see Tarantino takes the lead. Prime Factor is stalking, and then here comes Greatest Honor outside the 3 of them. He looked back, jock looked back. He's got a ton of horse, and frankly, just absolutely blows by these horses. You see the 3, which is this is Papatu, the 3, sort of clunking up in behind. Greatest Honor goes on with it. Prime Factor, second race out, flattens out, does not even go past Tarantino. Certainly ran good enough, but to me, they're all just sort of going up and down. Greatest Honor won easily, and there's the Holy Bull for you. So when I look at that race, now these 3-year-olds can certainly, a lot of things can happen, right? These are teenagers also. Just from that race alone, to me, Greatest Honor was far superior. Now, Prime Factor, that was only his 2nd start ever. Obviously, he can improve. Tarantino, I'm going to be against. There's nothing in that race that I would say that where he's going to turn the tables on the horses that he just faced, plus others. He got set a perfect trip and got second sort of by default. I don't like Papatu. I don't like Giraffles, the 1. The only horse out of this race that you could argue will take a step forward, in my opinion, would be Prime Factor, just because that was only his 2nd start, and he's trained by Pletcher. But to me, obviously, Greatest Honor was clearly superior on that day in that race. Let's take a look at some fresh faces that we have in this race, including one of the horses that I like quite a bit underneath. So, just for the record, I have Greatest Honor as a lone A. I wish I could be more creative, guys and ladies, but to be honest, some of the fresh faces I don't like enough to put them on top. And I don't think Greatest Honor is a superstar by any means, but he just keeps getting better and better. He figures to set another good trip. You know, distance is not his issue. I don't expect him to win by 5. I would not be shocked at all if he gets beat. And I would never, ever, ever put a win bet on him at 6-5 in this race. But I think he is the most likely winner. Let's talk about the fresh faces. Drain the Clock. So Drain the Clock's last 2 races have been very impressive on the lead. And in terms of the pace situation, you got Drain the Clock from the rail. You know he's going. He's got absolutely no choice. I'd be shocked if this horse not on the lead. Prime Factor is also quick, and I think they've got to use him a little bit too. In fact, I'm assuming IRAD wants to sit that same kind of trip that he sat last time, just not as wide. Is there other speed in this race when you go down the PPs? Not really. Tarantino showed speed. You got to figure he's going to go a little bit. I think Papatoo is going to be a very important horse in this race. I don't like Papatoo, but he's got some early speed and he's got the 10 hole. He has to go. I would think they're going to send Papatoo. They're either sending this horse or they're going to completely take back. My guess is they're going to send, but it's just a guess. Is it possible that Drain the Clock and Prime Factor can just be out there 1-2 to fairly soft fractions? Yes, that would not surprise me at all. So what do I think about Drain the Clock? I've got Drain the Clock in this race as a B. I want to show you the breeding on this horse, though. Let's look at the dam. Here's the dam. You can see the dam was really nothing special, only won $7,000. It's amazing how some of these horses are bred. And you can see that this horse did go long a few times, but best buyer was a 55. But what's interesting here is take a look at the siblings of the dam. There's some very nice horses here that have actually been bred by Mankey. And you see Amazing Audrey was a turf horse that was okay, but she went long. But then after that, the only other one is this Mike Bays, who is a horse running in Colorado for maiden 5 and maiden 10. So this dam has really not produced anything special other than Amazing Audrey, who is an okay turf horse. So that's interesting to me. McLean's Music, which I'm sure a lot of you know, ran one of the fastest buyers ever. He only ran 1 time. He ran super fast. And his progeny can do a lot of things, but they're mainly sprinters. These are his top progeny. You got Complexity, basically a 1-mile horse. Sure, the upside, a sprinter. Cloud Computing did win the Preakness, if you remember. So this horse was versatile. Look, Jackie's Warrior. Obviously, we're not sure how long he can go. And the list goes on and on. Again, these are these horses out of McLean's Music. So what am I trying to say? Can Drain the Clock get the distance? I'll be honest, I'm a bit dubious. I don't think so because I think there's other speed in the race. I think this is a big ask. I have her as a B. I also have Prime Factor as a B because I think Prime Factor is going to improve. Just a little information. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. A little information about Prime Factor. Todd Pletcher tried to get Prime Factor into an allowance race. This might mean a lot to you or it might mean nothing to you. He was not planning on going into the Fountain of Youth with Prime Factor. He was going to try to find an easier spot in an allowance race. An allowance race that he wanted to get him into did not fill. And so he decided to go ahead and run him in the Fountain of Youth. To me, that's a bit of a negative. Because if he really thought that highly of a horse, he wouldn't look for an allowance spot. If you're putting a horse in an allowance spot, you're trying to gain confidence with this horse, and this horse is probably still a little bit green. Based on those factors, no pun intended, I'm not putting Prime Factor as an A. He can definitely improve. He's going to take money. I'm a bit dubious. You saw the replay. He didn't switch leads. I don't even know if this horse can get the distance. That's a decision you're gonna have to make with Prime Factor. But again, Pletcher did not originally have this horse pointed for this race. I want everyone should probably keep that in mind. Let me go back to the PPs. And I appreciate your patience here. The other B horse, there's 2 other B horses. I'm using Fire Will. Now, Fire Will has been training on dirt. To me, that's a positive. The one race on the slop that he won, first of all, turf horses don't mind the slop. So to say that this horse can run on dirt because he won in a slop race with a 65 buyer doesn't mean a lot to me. Plus, that was a 5-horse field where 4 horses sort of went to the lead, and he came from behind, came up the rail, and won in a slow time. So for anyone to say that he can handle dirt because of that race, I think that's very misleading. However, Declaration of War almost won the Breeders' Cup Classic on dirt when he ran against Mucho Macho Man, if you remember that, Santa Anita. Kittens Joys obviously are not dirt horses. Let's take a look at the Dam Flirt. The Dam has only produced Fire Will. So the Dam, we don't know. Let me see. Actually, Flirt only ran once on turf and has only produced 1 Dam. So there's not much to go on there. I'm using this horse as a B out of respect to Michael Maker and out of the respect to the class, but I'm very dubious whether this horse can beat this field on dirt. We'll have to see. Now, I've been waiting all night. Is everyone ready? Here we go. Here's my sell. Take it or leave it. My bomb in this race, and actually my bomb for the entire day. And this horse might run up the track, and based on the fact that I hit a 21 last week, odds are that's possible. But you know what? I'm stubborn. The number 6, ladies and gentlemen, the 6, King's Ovation, is my bomb play for the Fountain of Youth on Saturday. And then I will give some reasons why, and then you can throw some hatred onto Twitter Saturday at about 6:15 Eastern time when the horse runs up the track. Let me show you King Ovation's PPs, and I'm going to show you a replay, and then I'll let you decide what you want to do with it. And if I'm talking out of my butt, or if you think I actually have something to go up here. So, King's Ovation, your first glance is, Howard, you're crazy. He's too slow. 43, 65, 60. Okay, he is slow right now. No question about it. Dale Romans is a very patient trainer, first of all. This horse would cost $200,000 out of Not This Time, who is a very talented juvenile and almost won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile dirt race as a 2-year-old that year. So he lost to, I think, Classic Empire at Santa Anita. The Dam is nothing special in terms of breeding. Okay, I'll give you that. Here's why I like this horse. First of all, second time he's raced at Gulfstream. I'm going to show you the replay. Look who he raced against, Drain the Clock. If you think Drain the Clock is a player in this race, and I think he probably is, sorry to get the distance, I'm going to show you reasons why you have to consider King's Ovation. First of all, he improved his buyer quite a bit into the low 70s, and I think he can improve his buyer again into low mid 80s. If this horse can run a low 80s, he's in the mix into your trifecta. Probably not on the win end, but definitely in the mix underneath. Since that race in the Swale, Dale Romans has put 2 works into this horse, and look at this last work. Again, if you don't believe in works that much, then what I'm saying is pointless. Dale Romans does not train his horses fast, and this horse just breezed at Gulfstream in 59-4, a bullet work. I'm going to have to look at I'm not going to be able to see the work, but I want to look at the workout report and see if that work was really as good as it looks on paper. But this to me means the horse is stepping up and ready for a prime effort. Now, watch this replay, because this is one of the things that convinced me. And Trish Smith, I hope you're watching, because this is what I'm talking about with dirt horses, that they might want to stretch out. Again, will I be right or wrong? We'll see. King's Ovation is the 2. Drain the Clock is the 5. So Drain the Clock obviously wins this race by a lot. But what you want to do is watch the 2 and the 5, especially the 2. So King's Ovation certainly got off fine for West Point. You see Drain the Clock. This is a 7 furlong race. Drain the Clock looks very comfortable and ran a big race. But what you need to do is look at the turn. So King's Ovation is on the inside, racing pretty comfortably, taking dirt. So I'm not concerned about him taking dirt. He's racing very comfortably. This is what I would consider a somewhat moderate pace. Right now, he's getting a great trip. They go 22-2, and he's just sitting back waiting. Again, Drain the Clock is also very comfortable. They're going to hit the turn. You don't even see King's Ovation right now at all. You see the chiclet there. He's the 2. King's Ovation is going to come up. I'm going to let you watch this at full speed, and then we'll slow it down. Drain the Clock takes the lead, and now you're going to start seeing King's Ovation, the 2, come up here on the inside. And he's got run. He's asking, but he's got run. He's going to try to split. And right there, boom. He has to steady, and he probably lost, I'd say, a good length and a half to 2 lengths. Now, you might say, okay, he's got nothing. He doesn't give up. This horse re-breaks and comes on, and you see Drain the Clock ran a monster race, and he's still running. It's not like a ridiculously big close, but he comes on to get second. And now watch the gallop out. Here we go, Trish Smith and everyone else who's interested. So they're way past the wire, and look at King's Ovation, the 2. Are you kidding me? Now, he's not asking, guys. The jock is not asking there. He blows by Drain the Clock. I'm going to show you again. You have to watch these gallop outs carefully because Drain the Clock was not really being pulled up, and King's Ovation was not being asked. He does this all on his own. I mean, he was 4 lengths. Look at this. I mean, this is on his own. This horse wants to run. He's got more horse in him. Okay, so again, you can take that for what it's worth. To me, this horse is interesting. Now, there's a few things that might go against him. Can he get 2 turns? There's no guarantee. Will the pace be fast enough that he can close into? I think the pace is going to be honest. Who else do you want in this race? That's what I would ask everyone, right? The horses that have run the Holy Bull, to me, unless Prime Factor steps up, Grace Honor is clearly the superior horse of everyone else. Again, I'm against Tarantino. If you like Tarantino more, fine. I thought he sat a perfect trip and really didn't do that much running to get second. Drain the Clock is the other mystery horse who, if he gets the distance, can win. But let me ask you a question. Who is going to close in this race, especially if they go a decent pace? I don't see anyone in the PPs that has the ability to close in this race other than King's Ovation and Greatest Honor. If they go a little bit heated up front, I can easily see Greatest Honor winning again and King's Ovation like clunking up for second at a big price. Again, his odds, let's take a look at his odds real quick. Sorry, I just messed that up again. Hold on. I know I didn't share my screen. Let's take a look at his odds. King's Ovation morning line is 15-1. By the way, Triple Crown nominated. You see that Triple Crown sign. So they always thought highly of this horse. He is Triple Crown nominated for West Point. Will you get 15-1? That's something I want to ask you guys. Again, Prime Factor, I think, will be second choice along with Drain the Clock, right around 7-2, 4-1, somewhere around there. Who else is going to Fire Will's going to take money? Those 4 horses are going to take a ton of money. I mean, maybe they're going to bet Tarantino. He is lower in the morning line, right? Who else? I mean, so there are horses that are going to take money here. So I think you're going to get 15-1, maybe 19-1. Do those odds sound familiar to anyone out there? 19-1. There goes King's Ovation. Win bet, trifecta, whatever. I'm going to use King's Ovation. So for disclosure, I'm putting a small win bet on King's Ovation on Saturday. I don't care unless he's lower than 10-1. If he's lower than 10-1, I'm not going to touch him on the win end. I'm going to put a small win bet. I'm going to put a smaller trifecta with King's Ovation. I'm going to show you. Actually, I don't have it. I didn't write down my trifecta bet. But anyway, on my Word document. So I'm going to use King's Ovation in a smaller try on top, but I'm definitely using King's Ovation a lot in second and third, mainly over Greatest Honor and a little bit over Drain the Clock and Prime Factor and Fire Will. So all I need is King's Ovation to be in the money, and I probably will hit the try. For how much, who knows? So, folks, I ramble on quite a bit. We're coming up on about 85 minutes here, and we can touch on a few earlier races. We don't really have to. I wanted to focus mainly on the pick 4. I apologize for rambling. Opinions, anyone here? Richard, I know you've joined us recently. Does anyone have any opinions on the Fountain of Youth? Anything that I said? Anything you'd like to ask me? Anything you'd like to add for the Fountain of Youth Stakes on Saturday? Everyone's stunned by my King's Ovation, by my King's Ovation choice. Trish Smith, go ahead, Trish. Trish, go ahead. Your mute button's on, Trish.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Well, I was going to say, because I really liked Drain the Clock, and I was going to use him, and I didn't even think about King's Ovation, but I mean, if you do like Drain the Clock, then I completely agree with you that King's Ovation you kind of have to take a look at as well. If
Yeah,
you
I
like,
mean, you know, look, I've talked about this on my show. I've talked about it with Matt Bernier. Every race tells its own story, right? You can't say, well, Drain the Clock won that race by 6 lengths last time, so he's 6 lengths better than King's Ovation. And same with Greatest Honor. Greatest Honor, frankly, if he wins, I'd be surprised if he wins by 5 lengths again, just because it's horse racing, right? I mean, he might not get the same trip. We don't know. There's a lot of factors. I don't think he's the superstar. But again, if you like Drain the Clock, it's hard. No one can convince me that, let's just say King's Ovation gets through that hole cleanly. Does he win? No. But I would say he probably runs, what, a high 70s buyer and loses by only, what, 2.5 or 3, right? And then his odds are, what, 10 to 1 in this race? So, again, you have to watch these races carefully. And there's enough there for me to be interested. I don't like him on the win end. I want to say that flat out. This is not a Mishriff situation. Mishriff was a proven horse with really good numbers that I just absolutely loved for a lot of reasons. I like King's Ovation, but really only underneath. But that's all you need to make money, right? And if he wins, I've got him as a B in my pick 5. Excuse me, my pick 4. Anyone else before I show you my ticket? I don't want to run too late here tonight. All right, let's go on to my pick 4 ticket, and then we'll wrap up the show. I have a few other interesting horses. I'll just mention my name. I don't want to go too long. So I'm going to share my screen and show you my tickets. So again, did I just do the same? Hold on a second. I'm having share screen issues here. Okay. I apologize, everyone. I do this every day, too, in class, you'd think. Okay. Let me make this a little bit bigger for everyone. All right. So on my show on on Monday, I talked about ticket construction. You guys have to make some decisions, everyone out there. You're going to have 3 big favorites. You have Got Stormy, VQuest, and Greatest Honor. Who do you want to lean on? Who do you want to use more? Excuse me. That's one takeaway that I have in this pick 4. The other takeaway I have is you have to spread in the leg 3. Even a horse like the 9 that Jim mentioned can absolutely win. I don't even have the 9 on my ticket. That wouldn't shock me at all. I wanted to play a ticket that was somewhat budgetable. You see my ABC tickets for $139, but I'm pressing up. I have all A's for $2 and all A's 1B for $1. So if all of those A horses win, I'll have the pick 4 4 times. If all A's and 1B come in, I have a 1. So I can still win the sequence. Even like, for example, if Got Stormy loses and Greatest Honor loses, and even if VQuest loses, I can still hit this ticket if all 3 of those horses lose. Because you got to make money somewhere, right? Then you see my $91 caveman play. I have 2 caveman tickets, as you can see. I have 1 caveman ticket where I'm only using 2 horses in leg 2, VQuest and Mealfoy. And then I'm using a backup ticket as my ticket number 2 for caveman in case those 2 don't win, with the 4 and the 6. That's Crazy Beautiful and Curlin's Catch as backups in case VQuest and Mealfoy do not win. That's a little bit of a cheaper ticket. Again, use these tickets. Don't use these tickets. Use them as a guide, right? Maybe you don't want to spend this much money. Maybe you want to get together with friends. Maybe you completely disagree with this ticket. That's fine. I wanted to make them have a with a decent budget. I think it's, if you like these favorites a lot, you can still make money, right? Let's say you just single all three. You can single Got Stormy, VQuest, and Greatest Honor, and then let's just say you even hit the all button in the leg 3, which is what, is that a 10 horse field? I'm trying to remember it now. I think it's 10. Guys, that's a $5 ticket for 50 cents. So you can go single, single, all single if you really love those favorites, and you could, spend $50 on a $50, for example, and hit it 10 times. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can make money, even when favorites are winning. You have to decide as a handicapper how strongly you want to use those 3 favorites. I'll end with this, and I'll ask you guys some questions, and then I'll briefly mention some horses early in the card. In order, in my opinion, of those 3 horses, I think Greatest Honor is the most likely winner. He might not be the lowest of the odds, and I'm mainly saying that because Got Stormy's coming off a layoff and VQuest is coming off a layoff. That's the main reason. And frankly, who is Greatest Honor going to lose to? I would say there's only one reasonable horse, probably, and that's if Drain the Clock gets loose and gets the distance. That's a lot of ifs. Could Prime Factor win? Sure. Could King's Ovation win? Maybe. Probably doubt it. Fire at Will? Big question mark. So to me, of those 3 big favorites, and I could be completely wrong, I think Greatest Honor is the most likely winner, mainly because the other 2 are coming off of layoffs. So I'll just leave it at that, just a point of emphasis. Any opinions on the Fountain of Youth or how you folks see the pick 4? Any suggestions for me or other viewers out there that might want to bet this pick 4 on Saturday? Yes, Leonard.
I just have a question. Prior to listening to you, I had never heard the term caveman ticket. What does that mean?
Sure. So are you familiar with the ABC ticket maker method?
Yes.
Okay. So a caveman ticket is just a phrase meaning you're using all the horses equally, right? So let me go back to the caveman ticket real quick. So I do not recommend a caveman ticket. I only put a caveman ticket up there because not everyone's familiar with the ABC ticket. So what I'm saying, Leonard, is that, I have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. By using a caveman ticket, what you're saying is all those horses have an equal chance of winning because you're putting equal weight on them. So that's what a caveman ticket is. You're not weighing them any more different than another horse, which I think if you have that, how do I put this nicely? If your opinion's not strong enough where you feel like any of 6 horses can win equally, you probably shouldn't play that pick 4, right? I mean, you have to have some opinions that you like one horse more than another, and that's why I use the ABC method to weigh your horses more and get better value. So caveman just means you're using all the horses equally, Leonard. A lot of people use it. I'm not saying it's a bad method, but I think the ABC method has by far been proven to be a better money-making method over a period of time.
So where did the actual term caveman come from?
I just think it's a more basic one. I'm not familiar with the analogy of it or with the background of it. I think it's just because it's so easy a caveman can bet it.
Okay.
One of those things. Just because it's less analytical because you're just using all of them equally. I'm not too familiar with who came up with the term.
Okay.
Any questions? So let me just ask you guys one question, and then we'll get to. I'll just mention a few horses early in the sequence, then we'll end the show. Of those 3 horses, Greatest Honor, VQuest, Get Stormy, who's your most likely winner? I'm just going to go around the corner. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. Jim, in your opinion, who's the most likely winner of those 3 on Saturday?
I think Greatest Honor is the most likely winner. I was trying real hard to get to the speed in the front, but with Drain the Clock. But with Fire Will with Carmouche on, I just think Fire Will, the only time Carmouche rode the horse, it was even on the turf, right to the front. And I think there could be a little more speed up front, which makes the 6 horse very interesting. Actually, like you said, to run the 2nd and 3rd. Just real concerned about them being a little hard-headed on the front. So I think Greatest Honor won so easily last time, won twice at the track, can get the distance. Actually had a poor start last time, if you look. Didn't really
it wasn't great.
well. Yeah, it didn't get out well and came from way back. So I'm not worried about the outside post in the short run up. I think by far and you said with the layoffs with the other two likely favorites, I think they can be beaten. So my greatest honor is my best bet to win.
Leonard, do you have an opinion of those three big favorites? Who would be your
I,
most likely
I
winner?
agree on greatest honor for all the reasons that have already been stated. Yeah.
Okay. Brian or Susan or Trish or Richard, would you either any of you like to chime in on of those three big favorites, who's your most likely winner on Saturday?
I completely agree with Jim and everybody. Greatest honor, I think, is the most likely winner.
Okay. Brian or Richard, would you like to chime in? If not, that's absolutely fine. Okay. Looks like they just like to listen. So I will say of those three, I think Get Stormy is going to be the shortest price though, because of the name recognition and the buyers. I think Get Stormy is going to be 4 to 5, 3 to 5. I'm going to try to beat her. She might run off the screen. She might win easily. Now, I will say this. If Jakarta, the 8, scratches for some reason, that completely changes my opinion. Then I'd say Get Stormy's 1-9 to win that race. I mean, I'm not saying Jakarta is going to scratch. I'm just saying that would change my opinion. But I think Get Stormy is going to be the lowest price of all those, and that's the horse I'm going to try to beat. We could be completely wrong, but we'll see. Let me just briefly, because we're getting long, I want to talk about a few horses earlier in the card. I'm just going to leave everyone on the screen here because we're running a little bit longer because I'm rambling, and I apologize. Just a few horses to keep in mind early in the card. You folks can write this down if you'd like or listen later. These are all stake races, by the way. I didn't write a number. Let me just go ahead to the PPs. I think that'll make it easier for everyone because I don't have all the numbers written down necessarily here. So there are a lot of other stake races. We're not going to run through them. You see the morning lines are up now. They weren't on until this afternoon. I'm very interested in Designer Ready, the 8 horse. This is race 3. This is the Here Comes the Bride. It's a turf race. I think there's quite a bit of speed in this race, and I'm very interested in the 8 who ran against, you can see there, ran against Cone Lima. We're not going to show the replay, but the 8 had a little bit of trouble, and it was a slow pace. And I like Designer Ready, ran into a slow pace. Lost to Cone Lima last time. I do not like Cone Lima, by the way, at all on Saturday. I think there's a much more speed, and this is a much better field. So I'm a little bit interested in Designer Ready. Race 4, which is a grade 2 distance race in the McDarmida. If you've been following Gulfstream, this is a lot of horses come in the same race. Tide of the Sea beat Temple on the same day there on the Pegasus World Cup. I don't know where that race from Tide of the Sea came from. I didn't like him. Obviously, a lot of people did, and he wired the field. I don't think he's going to wire the field this time. I've always been a fan of Aquaphobia. I know he's 8 years old and he's older, but there's a few things I like. This horse wants to go longer. I think you're going to get at least 9 to 2. I think he probably needed that start off the layoff. He's been working well, and now Maker puts Jose Ortiz on him. So I do like Aquaphobia a little bit at 9 to 2 in the McDarmia. That's in race 4. 2 other horses I'll mention. Race 8, the Canadian Turf. This is a mile and 16th, grade 3 on the turf for older male horses. In this race, I'm interested in the 8, Dyna Drive at 15 to 1. Again, Michael Maker. By the way, I don't love every Michael Maker horse, but this horse is very quickly improving. You could see his buyers, then all of a sudden, Maker takes over, and he runs a big race in the Woodchopper at Fairgrounds for the 87 buyer. He's been working well. He's a big-time closer. There's enough speed in this race. He's going to be a price. I'm a little bit interested in Dyna Drive the 8s. Probably not to win, but certainly underneath in that race. And the last horse I'm going to mention is in race 9. This is the Gulfstream Park mile. This is a 1-turn mile with some very nice horses, including Tats, who I liked a lot in the Pegasus, who ran horribly. By the way, Tats might be scratched out of this race, FYI. But the horse I'm interested in is a horse that I liked last year, Fearless, the 5. This horse has got upside. He's not raced since June of last year, so he's a little bit ouchy. But Pletcher said he's been working like a train. You see this horse loves Gulfstream. I think there's enough speed in this race. And if Pletcher has this horse ready, I think you're going to get a price on a horse that has got talent, I think can still improve, has been working well, and is a fresh face. However, it is a tough field. You've got Performer, who won last time. And then you also have Tax in this race. So it's a tough field, but I do like Fearless to at least get second and maybe on the win end if things really fall his way. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my recap of Saturday's Gulfstream stake races. Before we end the show, does anyone have any final comments, opinions? Would you like to, are you enjoying this format? Would you prefer a live stream? I'm getting about the same amount of people here as our Zoom as I do on the live stream. So assuming that stays that way, there's probably no reason to switch back to live stream and just keep it with a Zoom show. I know we're gonna have a lot of people watching. I hope the replay of this show, I'll be posting it tonight, Thursday night here when I'm done. And the replay of this show should be up on my YouTube channel by approximately 10:30 Eastern time, Thursday night. Does anyone have any final opinions or comments on the stake races Saturday at Gulfstream Park?
Nope.
All right. Yes, Leonard.
Just going to say great analysis, and I enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for joining. I know we had some new people. I appreciate it, Leonard. We hope to see you again. Please tell any other friends that are interested in horse racing. I know if the weather is the same in Toronto area as it is in Chicago, it's finally warming up and snow is starting to melt a little bit and spring is upon us pretty soon. So time to get those golf clubs out ready for me, hopefully. But I still don't see a lot of green grass. For us, it's going to be a while here in Chicago.
So,
Same thing for Jim in Buffalo, I'm sure. It's not quite ready for that, but at least it's warming up. So thanks for joining us, Leonard. Anyone else? Comments? All right, we'll just wrap up the show. Good luck to everyone on Saturday. Again, I'll be sending out on Twitter, on my Twitter account, @HKravitz, my final pick 4 ticket with scratches. Jim, I might add that 9 horse. I've definitely, you convinced me. She's interesting if there's enough pace, again, in the race. And if you're playing King's Ovation on Saturday, the Fountain of Youth, I'm hoping to get at least 15-1. I'm hoping to go fast up front, and I'm hoping this horse at least comes in the money, because if King's Ovation is in the money, then Howard Kravitz is probably cashing a trifecta ticket, which would make me happy. Thanks again, everyone. Look for my recap show on Monday, and then next week, Thursday, you will have either a live stream or probably another Zoom chat. This has been Howard's Horse Handicapping. This is Howard Kravitz. Thank you, everyone. Take care and good luck. Good night.
right.